ghost technology!
There's a limit to how much ridiculousness I can tolerate.
Okay. Then let's compare Kyoko's trait.
Her traits?
I got it! I'm talking about her gloves. They'll give us some insight into the mystery. I'm sure of it.
In that case, I think it would be helpful if someone explained why she actually wears those gloves.
And would you happen to know the answer?
In fact, Monokuma told me. Apparently you have scars on your hands you don't want anyone to see.
Oh! You know, now that I think about it, the corpse wasn't wearing any gloves, right?
They probably just got burnt up in the explosion. I'm not convinced. The ghost is just trying to fool us all. That Kyoko there is just a ghost.
Impossible.
Okay, then prove it.
The dead body wasn't wearing gloves.
They got burnt up in the explosion.
Then she was wearing gloves before the explosion?
Well, yeah, she must have been wearing gloves. Cause that corpse is absolutely Kyoko.
This entire discussion is idiotic.
That Kyoko...
Impossible.
Okay, then prove it.
The dead body wasn't wearing gloves.
They got burnt
Burnt up in the...
Then she was wearing gloves?
Well,
Yeah,
She must have been wearing gloves.
cause that corpse is absolutely
This entire discussion is idiotic.
that.
Kyoko that...
Impossible.
Okay, then prove
The
it.
dead body was...
They got burnt up in...
Then she was wearing gloves?
Well,
Yeah, she must have been wearing gloves.
No, that's wrong. No, there's no way the corpse was wearing gloves. Whoever it was, they were wearing fake nails. Remember, I imagine trying to wear gloves over nails like that would have been a pretty big pain. Besides, Kyoko wears gloves to hide her hands, right? It'd be pretty weird for someone who's self-conscious about their hands to wear fake nails, don't you think?
Jeez, man, you don't know women, huh? They're complicated like that.
If anyone doesn't know women, it's you.
Well, Kyoko, any thoughts?
These gloves were custom made to the size of my hands to make sure they don't interfere with my daily life. If I wore fake nails, the gloves wouldn't fit properly.
Then that's that. The dead body doesn't belong to Kyoko.
Which should have been obvious since she's standing right here.
Okay, so then.
That's the first thing I said. You're the one who's been dragging us around in circles.
If Kyoko really is still alive, then who died?
There's gotta be some way to figure it out. I don't think so.
The face was scorched beyond recognition.
Shoot!
If Kyoko really is,
Then who died?
There's gotta be... I don't think so. And there wasn't any description.
Well, if we can't identify the body...
No, that's wrong. There was one clue left behind that we can use to identify the body.
What? For real?
If you're lying, you'll die a cruel and unusual...
cruel and unusual death. This I gotta see.
She's just being stupid. Ignore them, Makoto. Tell us what you're talking about.
The key to figuring out who it was is the tattoo on the back of her hand.
Oh, yeah. The design's pretty strange, huh? Is this a dog?
Her master must have made her get it. To be like, you're my bitch!
Seriously? They really did something that humiliating?
No, that's not it. The identity of the victim is hidden within that tattoo.
Oh, really?
I got it! The Fenrir Mercenary Corps. That's the name of the military group Mukuro Ikusaba belonged to.
Okay, so...
To show that they're a member of the team, each soldier that joins the squad would get a tattoo representing Fenrir somewhere on their body.
Fenrir?
Now I understand. The representation of Fenrir is a wolf.
Fenrir, the Wolf of Ragnarok. It's from Norse mythology. A huge, world-ending wolf beast. He's the child of the trickster god Loki, and a female giant.
Man! After all this time, we finally got a glimpse of the literary all-star.
A wolf tattoo. Then
Exactly. The body we found had a tattoo of a wolf, which means that person must have once belonged to Fenrir. So it must have been Mukuro.
What?
hold on. Isn't she the one that was behind this whole thing?
You sound surprised, but you're absolutely right. Yes, indeed. The trial this time is to solve the murder of Mukuro Ikusaba.
Are you saying the mastermind is dead? And now we have to have a cool-ass trial?
No. It means we were wrong in thinking that Mukuro was the mastermind at all.
But I mean, being the ultimate despair seems like a pretty mastermindy title to me.
Maybe we shouldn't have been thinking of her as the ultimate despair in the first place. After all, looking at her profile, I didn't see anything that would fit such a description. All it said was that she was the ultimate soldier. If I remember correctly, that other information came from Kyoko. That's what you told Makoto, right?
So that means Kyoko got it wrong?
And who was she? Who was Mukuro Ikusaba? She's been gone this whole time? And when she finally turns up, she gets killed.
Usually when there's a scene where an important character dies, it has a lot more detail.
So you're saying she wasn't an important character, which would mean she was the same as us. Just another participant.
Then who's the real mastermind?
It must have been the Hope's Peak Academy headmaster after all.
No, the headmaster has nothing to do with it.
But how can we trust that? We already know your information about Mukuro was wrong.
My information was not wrong.
Okay. We're in the middle of a trial right now, figuring out who. Please limit all future prattle, chatter, and chit-chat as much as possible.
Fine. Uncovering the identity of the mastermind will have to wait. But remember this, no matter what happens, we will find out who you really are. I stake my family name on it.
I have officially decided to completely ignore all such attempts at provocation. Now then, just so nobody's confused, let me state this one more time for the record. The reason we're having a class trial is because a murder among the students has taken place. Hammer that point straight into your big ol' brain!
What you're saying is that both the victim and the culprit are part of the student body?
Then, one of us killed Mukuro?
Wait, no! There's a chance that there's some mystery 17th person who's been hiding all along!
Nope! There are only 16 students in total that have been taking part in these events.
Seriously? Then one of us killed Mukuro?
Who did it? Who's the killer this time?
Get a hold of yourself. We've already narrowed down the list of possible suspects.
Huh?
I'm sure you realize who I'm talking about, right, Makoto? Who the evidence points to?
I got it! You've narrowed it down to...
Why do you say that?
Allow me, just after nighttime, lad.
The gym?
That's right. The hall.
What? I got it! The body must have been discovered at 9 a.m. Since...
was right. It had to be around then.
So we can be totally sure the murder happened sometime between 10 at night and 9 in the morning.
For me, I was already asleep before nighttime hit, so I don't have an alibi after 10 o'clock. But I'm sure I met up with everyone else before 9 this morning.
We ran into each other in the dining hall, right? That was around... Oh yeah! Right around 7:30. I remember checking right before I went in, so I'm totally sure about it.
Which means from 10 p.m. to 7:30 a.m., you don't have an alibi.
We've established a time frame for the murder. It took place somewhere between 10 o'clock at night and 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yep. And Makoto...
Yeah, from 7...
That's more than enough time. So Makoto, if you have any objections, now would be the time.
We've established a time frame. It took place somewhere between 10 o'clock at night and 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yep, and Makoto doesn't have an alibi for most of that time.
Yeah, from 10 o'clock to 7:30.
That's more than enough time to commit murder, I should think. So Makoto, if you have any objections, now would be the time. We've established a time frame. It took place somewhere between 10 o'clock at night and 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yep. And Makoto...
Yeah, from 10 to 7:30.
That's more than enough time to commit murder, I should think. So Makoto, if you have
Any objections, now would be the time. We've established a time. It took place somewhere between 9 o'clock. Yep. And Makoto...
Yeah, from 10 to 7:30.
Shoot!
We've established a time frame. It took place somewhere between 10 o'clock at night and 9 o'clock in...
Yep. And Makoto...
Yeah, from 10 to 7:30.
Shoot!
We've established a time frame for the murder. It took place somewhere between 10 o'clock at night...
No, that's wrong! Actually,
The bu- I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! I don't know anything! Hold on! Are you trying to blame me? I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! I don't know anything! Hold on! Are you trying to blame me? I admit nothing. Are you trying to blame me? I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! I don't know anything! Hold on! Are you trying to blame me? I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! I don't know anything! How can you say it wasn't the sprinkler?
this should prove it. Just remember what the body was like after the explosion, and you'll see why it wasn't the sprinklers. The top half of the body was... If the sprinklers got the body wet... While the body was still on fire,
But...
I got it! You're talking about the tarp, aren't you?
You catch on quick. You're right. All you'd have to do is cover the body with the tarp, and that'd take care of the water. In fact, that's exactly what the killer did. The dirt pattern on... Oh.
Wait.
By covering the body with the tarp, the killer prevented it from getting wet.
So the reason the tarp was only dirty on one side is because the sprinkler got that side wet.
But the underside of the tarp, it was totally spotless, right?
It's because that side was protected from the water. Since it was facing down toward the body, of course it didn't get dirty.
By covering the body with the tarp, the killer prevented it from getting wet.
So the reason the tarp was only dirty on one side is because the sprinkler got that side wet.
But the underside of the tarp, it was totally spotless, right?
It's because that side was protected from the water.
Shoot!
By covering the body with the tarp, the killer prevented it from getting wet.
So the reason the tarp was only dirty on one side is because the sprinkler got that side wet.
But the underside of the tarp, it was totally spotless.
It's because that side was protected from the water. Since it was facing down toward the... Of course it didn't get dirty!
By covering the body with the tarp, the killer prevented it.
So the reason the tarp was only dirty on one side...
Shoot!
By covering the body, the killer prevents...
So the reason that is because the spring...
But the underside, it was totally...
It's because that side was protected. Since it was facing down to... Of course it didn't get dirty!
By covering the body with the tarp, the killer prevented it from getting...
So the reason the tarp was... Is because the spring...
But the underside, it was totally...
It's because that side was protected. Since it was facing down to... Of course it
Didn't get dirty!
No, that's wrong! Actually, one side being clean is pretty strange if you think about it. I got it! Could it have been... What?
But that's not what we...
I have to agree.
Wait.
Then that's our... Here's what happened with the body... They...
Well then, it looks like we're back to square. Makoto's alibi is no good, so once again, our suspect...
For serious, Hey! According to...
The knife we found lodged in the dead body.
It's the same one we gave to Makoto.
It really is, isn't it? I was afraid of that.
If he did have that knife before, then... That seals it! Makoto did it!
Just because I had the knife, that automatically...
Well, getting stabbed is what killed her, so there's no question.
You took that knife...
What a horrible man you are, Makoto. The knife we found lodged in...
It's the same one we gave to McCall.
It really is, isn't it?
If he did have that seals it.
Just because I had that automatically...
Well, getting stabbed is what killed her. So there's no question.
You took that knife.
What a horrible man you are, Koda. The knife we found... It's the same one. It really is, isn't it?
If he did have that knife, that seals it.
But just because I had that automatically...
Well, getting stabbed is what killed her.
No, that's wrong. I got it! The Monokuma file clearly states that there was only one stab wound.
Oh yeah, it sure did.
They probably stabbed her to draw attention away from what... The explosion severely... I got it! After the...
Then shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined.
The explosion didn't kill her for sure. I guess.
Well, yeah, she was already...
And it wasn't because of the knife. And then there's only one other...
Oh yeah. That's gotta be it. There was evidence that showed she was hit on the back of her head.
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body. Then shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be
The explosion didn't kill her for sure.
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't... Then there's...
Oh yeah. That's gotta be it.
There was evidence that
Showed she was hit on the back of her head.
Shoot!
Then shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined, correct?
Shoot!
Then shall we continue? The victim's fatal...
The explosion didn't kill...
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't because... Then there's a...
Oh yeah. That's gotta be it.
There was evidence... And more than that, the victim had
Suffered countless wounds across her entire body. Then shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined, correct?
Shoot! I refuse to give up yet!
Then shall we continue the debate? The victim's
fatal injury has yet to be
determined, correct?
The explosion didn't kill her...
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't... Then...
Oh yeah. That's gotta be it. There was evidence.
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body.
Shoot!
Then shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined, correct?
The explosion didn't kill her for sure. I guess.
Well, yeah. She was already...
And it wasn't because of the knife, right? And then there's only one other thing.
Oh yeah. That's gotta be it. There was evidence that showed she was hit on the back of her head.
And more than that, The victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body. Then, shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined, correct?
Shoot!
Then, shall we continue the victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined.
The explosion didn't kill.
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't you.
Oh yeah! That's gotta be it!
There was evidence.
Evidence that showed she was hit on the back of her head.
Shoot!
Then shall we continue? The victim's fatal...
The explosion didn't kill.
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't you because then there's a...
Oh yeah! That's gotta be it!
There was evidence that
Showed she was hit on the back of her head.
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body.
Then, shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal
injury has yet to be.
No, that's wrong. Mukuro I got it! Mukuro was hit in the back of the head with something, and that's what killed her. And
It... The titanium era. It was in the dojo. I have no doubt that was the murder weapon.
You sure?
You don't sound convinced.
Well, because it said the weapon must have been about as... It seems like an arrow would just be too thin.
no, that's wrong. You're right. Shoot! I got it! The one thing that proves key... Last night. That's what I...
Those words you just spoke.
What exactly what I said? I'm not the killer. You should understand that more than anyone here.
Byakuya, what are you hiding?
Master would never hide something from me!
There's proof that you aren't the culprit. Is that what you're saying?
You stated a theory earlier. You said I hid the evidence of my crime in the dojo locker, and then left the locker key in my own room, correct? But could I really have done that?
Those words you just spoke.
Exactly. I'm not the...
You should understand that.
Byakuya,
Master would never...
There's proof that you aren't the... Is that what you're saying?
You stated it. You said I hid and then left the locker key, but... Could I really have done that?
those words you just spoke.
Exactly what I'm not the killer. You should understand.
Byakuya,
Master would never...
There's proof that
you aren't the culprit.
Is that what you're...
You stated a theory. You said I hid the evidence
and then left the locker key in my own room, correct?
Shoot!
Those words you just...
Exactly. I'm not, but you should understand.
Byakuya.
Master would never...
There's proof that you... Is that what you're...
You stated a fear. You said I hid the evidence and then left.
The locker key in my own room, correct? But could I really have done that?
Those words you just spoke.
Exactly what I'm not the killer. You should understand.
Byakuya.
What is Master would never...
There's proof that you
Aren't the culprit.
No, that's wrong. If I'm right... There was a lie hidden within Kyoko's statement just now.
I didn't have the key to my room because I'd given it to Byakuya. There's no doubt about that, right?
You are correct.
So I couldn't possibly have gotten into my room.
No, that's wrong. No, Kyoko could have gotten into her room. You said so yourself, didn't you, Kyoko?
Monokuma's secret tool?
Kyoko stole it from the headmaster's room. It lets you get into any room in the school, which means she could have used it to get into her own room.
Then I guess that's it.
You're giving up just like that? You admit to killing...
No, I'm simply recognizing that I lost.
What are you talking about?
Like I said, this was a trap, and I wasn't able to escape it, so I lost. That's all this means.
Huh? Then, you saying you really didn't... Kyoko, you really aren't the killer?
Okay, time's up!
Huh?
I'm sorry to say, but your time is up! All done, all finished. The class trial is all over.
But that's ridiculous! Since when is there any...
It's because you were late, so the trial started late and time ran out! So then, it's time for voting time, okay? Everyone, please vote using the lever in front of you! But I guess we already know who the blackened is, don't we? Now then, I've prepared a very special punishment. Let's give it everything we've got.
No! This isn't right!
Makoto, why are you staring off into space? Don't you have a rebuttal for Kyoko's claim?
There was a lie hidden with...
A lie?
Isn't that right?
I didn't have it because I'd given it to Byakuya. There's no doubt about that.
You are correct.
So I couldn't possibly...
Then, when we searched, how else could the key have gotten there?
Someone other than me must have put it there. That's the only explanation.
I didn't have the key to my room because I'd given it to Byakuya.
There's no doubt of...
You are correct.
So I couldn't possibly have gotten into my room.
Then...
No, that's wrong! No. Kyoko...
Monokuma's...
No! This isn't right!
Ma